Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 1796 Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Normal Vol Fan, joined alongside our boy Ryan. And boy, oh boy, Tennessee picks up two big recruitments. To me, the biggest one being the David Sanders. I mean, this guy's been, Tennessee's number one target, in my opinion, for this whole class. Ryan, I want to get your insight. What does this mean to Tennessee's recruiting class for 2025?
It's the crown jewel so far. Him and GMAC, and they go hand in hand because now GMAC will have his bodyguard.
The blind side, how he said.
Yeah, exactly. The big thing that stood out to me about Sanders, if you watch the whole announcement with him announcing his commitment, he spent like 10 minutes thanking his family, his coaches, his teammates, and crying through it. Like, it seems like a really, really good kid that's coming to Tennessee, and not to mention that he is a fantastic football player.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could tell, I mean, he said it during his thing. The reason he really came here was it felt like family. And I think Josh Heupel has really, really dominated the culture aspect of recruiting, is that kids love being here. They love each other. They love the coaches. They love the fans, and they love the game. And I think that's falling into Josh Heupel's, lap as a huge advantage in the coming years. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Tennessee's going to win a national championship this year or even next year. But like him building this culture, it's going to happen sooner rather than later. They're going to win a championship because of the culture that they're building and the players that they're getting. I mean, they're getting these blue chip guys. They're not getting these 3-stars anymore. Tennessee is getting the players that we all always knew that they should have been getting. And Josh Heupel's just been killing it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just think back of what we've done this summer in recruiting. You got 6 players committed in June, 5 players committed in July, and 3 in August for 2025, and then 1 for 2026 in Faison Brandon in August. So just a incredible
and Carson
run.
Sneed.
Yeah, an incredible run of recruiting. I mean, nothing that I've ever even – I don't remember another run like this. And then like you said, it's not 3 stars. Like, it's not just names to fill out the class. It's people that the top dogs want. I mean, just David Sanders – we got him over Nebraska, Georgia, and Ohio State. And then today, Tennessee flipped a guy from Alabama in Jaden Harmon, 4-star linebacker. I mean, again, unprecedented recruiting run for Josh Heupel and the Vols.
Yeah, and talk about Jaden Harmon. That dude is an absolute killer. If you haven't been able to look at his film, look at the film. It's players like this that are going to turn Tennessee around to a dominating force. I mean, this kid loves to hit, and that's what you need. You need guys going to go get the ball, and it's just going to be really interesting on these next couple classes. I mean, like you said, Faison Brandon, Carson Sneed, and there's other guys in the talks for 26 already that, are trying to, come to Tennessee.
Yeah. And you got Onus Conan Bonnie coming up. I think it's next weekend or slightly into the week before the Chattanooga game, but he's coming up soon too for 2025. And I mean, I expect Tennessee to land him too, just based on what he's been putting out on Twitter in the last 2 days, watching Sanders and Harmon recruit. So it's just very nice to see Tennessee back in the running for all this elite talent.
Not only that, like I want to talk about the Danny White situation where they're actually in the process of thinking of making Neyland Stadium bigger. Like,
Yeah.
That's nuts to me because, like, I don't know how they'd even do it, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
but you'd be thinking of a third deck. Like, it's just insane. But that's how big this fan base is, man. They have like a 15 to 20,000 person waiting list for season tickets. I mean, that they want it. This fan base wants it. So
Yeah.
it starts with recruiting, and the fans will come. You build it, they'll come.
Yeah. I mean, the only way I could see them adding more seats is taking off the East press box, which it was not always there. It was 109 before they added that press box on the east side of the stadium. But like you said, 20,000 people on a waiting list. I mean, 4 years ago, like you'd had to be drug tested to think there's 20,000 people on a waiting list for season tickets. Like that's how quickly this has turned around under Danny White and Josh Heupel and everybody else who's contributed to the good momentum we've had these last few years.
Yeah, imagine winning a national championship. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
It's
Oh
in
my
the
god.
cards. It's in the cards when you recruit like this. Like I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, and we're gonna do our predictions for the season today, and it's not out of the picture for this year. I know a lot of people are talking about, Tennessee will probably lose 3 games, and yeah, you could think about it like that, but Tennessee has probably the best defensive line in the country. They have a very veteran offensive line. They have Nico at the helm. They have a stacked wide receiver core. We talked about it the last podcast. You could talk about the tight ends. You could talk about the wide receivers. You could talk about Dylan Sampson. You could talk about Peyton Lewis. I mean, like, they have all these pieces that Tennessee could win every game. It's just, obviously, we're optimistic. It's just, it is possible to win every game. It's just, like I said, being optimistic is a virtue as a Tennessee fan.
You got to be. What's the point in being a fan if you think you're going to lose every game?
Exactly.
I've mentioned it several times over the last however long we've been doing this now, Jim. I guess almost 10 months now, coming up on a year in October. Like, if you're one of the self-loathing fans, the so-called Negavols, eat shit. Like, just have a good attitude.
Yeah, going to every week. Every week you're gonna win. That's how you got to do it. You can't. It makes it less enjoyable when you're like that.
Exactly. The only reason people are like that is so they can say "I told you so" when the team loses. Like, it's just so annoying. But let's hop into this season prediction episode, Jim. If you're up for it.
Absolutely, and I do want to go game by game. Even the Chattanooga game, I want to get your thoughts on when people should come out. What do you think it's going to look like? Who do you think's going to play 50-50? Because I want to talk about Boo Carter and Harrison, and let's do it.
I'm ready. So ready.
All right. So we got the mocks week 1. Now, I mean, we obviously both know we're going to say Tennessee is going to win this one, but I mean, what do you expect? Like, what do you expect Josh Heupel to do this game? Do you think he's going to try and get up real early, maybe 21 points or so, and then take out the starters? What do you think? What do you think he's going to do?
So number one, I think what he should do is keep it extremely vanilla. Pound the rock. This is number one. Just prove your dominance in the trenches, which we obviously have over Chattanooga, and get out of there with the win. I mean, I think some people are wanting the 59-0 score. As long as we win the game by a decent margin, I'm not too worried about some ridiculous score like that. The main thing is don't show NC State anything. Don't get anybody hurt. And as far as when people should come out, I think for Nico and the starters on offense, I think you give them at least a half, just because of the lack of experience. Nico got last year just because of how the season unfolded in certain games. But other than that, like, just pound the rock and get out of there with a decent win over your little brother from down south. Simple.
Yeah, I agree. I do like. To me, I agree with the half thing because you want those guys to get in a game flow, especially with the opponent you have the following week of NC State. You want them to get in, like you said, the rhythm. Now I would have Nico throw a couple nice passes here and there, get connections with those wide receivers for the following week. Because realistically, like I said, everyone's chalking this up as a win. So, in my opinion, I think Josh Heupel's going to go at this game as practice for NC State.
Yeah. And, just get Nico comfortable is the main thing on offense. Like you said, get him some easy completions, let him stretch the field a little bit too, and build the rapport with the receivers, like you said. But another thing that I think that they should that they might do is do things that Nico is not entirely comfortable with. So he will be ready to do those things if we need him to do them against NC State and Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree. Here's my thing though: Nico should not be running the ball this week.
Oh no. There's no point.
No point. Do not get hurt. Don't even. And I don't think Chattanooga's going to get to the Nico that much. But even if, get rid of the ball. Just keep your quarterback protected in a week 1 matchup like this. Because we all know, look at Akron what they did to Cedric Tillman that year, and it's just and I don't see Chattanooga being that team like that, but you never know. And to me, it's just like get your starters out, don't get injured, and just win a ball game. Start off the season 1-0.
Yeah, it would be really, really bad if Chattanooga came in here and acted like Akron did 2 years ago, diving at Hendon Hooker's knees and, like you said, injuring Tillman. But, the simple fact is a lot of those players are probably wearing UT wristbands and shirts to Chattanooga's practices. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that starts off the season 1-0. I mean, we all think and know that that's going to happen. But you got a really tough opponent, really good opponent on a neutral site, which is good. Night game against NC State. It is in North Carolina, but like we talked about last week, it'll probably be either 50-50 or even a little bit more of Vols fans there, hopefully. Again, I'll go to you for your opinion first, but this is a game where you could prove it right off the rip and take care of business and show people that Tennessee's here to stay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, your first decent opponent of the year on a neutral site. They got some decent pieces in the portal, but what I'm thinking is NC State, for better or worse, is an 8-4, 9-3 football team at best in the ACC. The talent level there's a big difference in the players that NC State gets and the players that Tennessee gets. I think in the second half, eventually Tennessee will, that talent will win out. And you mentioned it before we even started these predictions. The defensive line will give Grayson McCall hell. And I think that will be the biggest factor in Tennessee getting that big victory in week 2.
Now, what do you think the score is going to be?
I'm thinking at least 2 touchdown win for Tennessee. I think Nico will probably lead the offense to around 38 points. So I'll actually say 38-21.
I like that. And here's my thing about, and we talked about it last week. If Tennessee has this up-tempo offense going, again, I think this offense is going to be stellar again. I really do. I wouldn't be shocked if they put up 40 if they have this offense rolling the way it should be. And I agree. I think Tennessee wins. I think they win pretty comfortably. Like you said, I think maybe the first, second quarter, it kind of gets iffy, but, talent takes its toll and, Tennessee figures it out. And again, I think you hit the nail on the head with Grace McCall. I think he's gonna get pressured a lot between all 13 deep of this Tennessee defensive line. And I think our secondary is going to be average to above average this year. And I think it's going to be really tough for teams to, get what they usually could, these past 2 years. But yeah, I think a 45 to maybe like 24 type game. I think Tennessee handles this really well and gets the momentum rolling. And like I said, I think Nico's going to be a lot better with this offense than Joe was. So I think that's why I have it such a large margin because NC State is a really good football team, but at least that's what I'm feeling for this one.
So you're saying Nico announces himself on a national level?
This game, I think Nico could have. I'll even predict his stats. I think Nico's going to have 245 passing yards, maybe like 30 to 40 rushing yards, and a couple touchdowns.
So he's going to run the ship. He's going to lead the offense without being too flashy. Show that he can get it done against a decent opponent. I mean, the thing about NC State's defense, just based on what I've read this offseason, they're going to have to be starting all new linebackers and a lot of their, much like Tennessee, but again, the talent that they brought in is probably not as good as what Tennessee brought in. But in the back end on secondary, they're bringing in a lot of transfers. So pretty much everything but the defensive line is going to be pretty new for them. And I think, like you said, Nico will have a big day.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, that starts off the season really well. Obviously, you love to be 2-0. And you're going back home to Neyland to versus a Kent State football team, which, again, I honestly could be worse than Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Again, I think this is going to be practice for Oklahoma the following week. I think Tennessee wins this handily. Again, I think the starters should be out of this game by halftime. Keep them healthy because that's the biggest thing for this year is especially keep Nico healthy. You keep Nico healthy, I think this team could go far ways. But what's your opinion on this Kent State game?
Very similar to the Chattanooga game. Just played safe, win the ball game based off talent alone, and move on to Oklahoma. I mean, there's no reason to not have your younger players in the game in the third quarter, at least by the third quarter. Like this should be a route, and again, just take care of business, move on to your next important game.
Yeah. So we're going to scratch that one because this is going to be the interesting one to talk about. Now, Oklahoma going to Norman is going to be, we all know that Josh Heupel has this circled on his calendar. This is, and to me, this is the turning point of the season. This reminds me a lot of the Florida game last year because I think if Tennessee won the Florida game last year in the Swamp, I think their season looks a whole lot different. So, Oklahoma, they got a same year quarterback in Arnold and a lot of inexperience on the offensive line. But I want to get your opinion. What do you think transpires in this game?
So, my answer might be different if certain things haven't happened under Heupel in his first 3 years. But the last time Tennessee won a road game against a decent opponent was against LSU in 2022. And that was even kind of iffy because 30,000 Vols fans showed up and it was at noon. So really in a tough environment under Heupel, Tennessee has not beat a decent opponent. So just based on that, I'm going to say Tennessee drops this one. I know Heupel will have a game plan. But the biggest thing to me, besides what I mentioned about the road games under Heupel, is that I might have a different opinion if Nico got some experience last year in a big road game. But he didn't. So this will be his first time doing that. And I think he'll make a mistake or two that will let Oklahoma take this one.
So I'll be the real Vol fan here. All right. No, so I mean it's not out of the question. Like I said, we like to be optimistic about the schedule. I mean, again, I think this is a turning point game. I think this game will have huge repercussions if you lose, and I think it'll have really good benefits if they win. So, again, I think Tennessee's going to win this game. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think Tennessee sneaks it out. I think they win again. I think this defense is going to be a lot better than people think, and the inexperience on the Oklahoma offensive line, I think, is going to get in Jackson Arnold's way. And I think Tennessee wins this game by 10. And like the NC State game, I think it's going to be a close one for the first half, and then you start to see Tennessee pull away a little bit in the second half.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that happens. And
I know.
I also think it'll be a really close game. I think both teams will score well into the 30s, if not the 40s. But again, I just the road perils that Tennessee faced last year, blowing that lead at Alabama, not even showing up for the Florida game. Like it just gives me a little bit of pause to say Tennessee will just stroll into Norman and come out with a win. I mean, that's my biggest thing. I mean, we saw it even the year before, even when we had Hooker at quarterback. So many pre-snap penalties against Georgia in 2022, and even in the Pittsburgh game, Tennessee had to scrape that one out just based on pre-snap penalties and not showing up ready to play on the road. So that's the reason I'm leaning towards a loss right now.
Yeah, no, it's you're not completely wrong. I think this is one of those toss-up games where you're gonna have the win loss. Everyone's gonna be saying their own stuff. But I think if Tennessee wins this game, I think this is between, like, if they lose, this is going to have huge playoff aspirations between, getting to the playoff and not getting to the playoff.
Yeah.
Because if they drop Oklahoma, you have to beat Florida, you have to beat Alabama, you have to beat Mississippi State, you have to beat Kentucky, you have to win everything out and only lose to Georgia.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, all right. So we're kind of split there. So we're just gonna, keep it like that. Next we have Arkansas. We go to Arkansas and play a Sam Pittman-led Arkansas football team, and I want to get your opinion on this one. What do you think?
I think Tennessee will be the ones to get Sam Pittman fired. That's what I think. I mean, I know it's on the road, but it's not against a decent opponent. So I think Tennessee will roll in this game. I picture something maybe to a little lesser extent than Heupel's first year against Missouri on the road, where they just jumped all over him from the get-go. And I think it will be the nail in Sam Pittman's coffin, because Tennessee will be mad about losing a close one in Oklahoma, and they will come out on the road and prove that they can play on the road in 2024.
All right, I like that. Again, I think you're right. I think this one's going to be a Tennessee win all the way. I think this is where Nico and the offense start to really click. And, yeah, I think this is an easy win for them.
Yeah, it also helps that you'll get a bye week after Oklahoma going into Arkansas too. And if you're coming off a loss like I predicted, it's going to be some good, tough practices, and they're going to be ready to roll in Fayetteville. So
do we have 2 byes this year?
Yeah. College football has been doing 2 byes for a little bit now. I remember when it was just 1 bye, but I remember when there was no week 0 either. It's just another change in college football, the ever-changing world.
Okay, so we have a bye between Bama and Kentucky.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, well, all right. So we're looking at a 4-1, 5-0 type season so far, depending on what your take is on the Oklahoma game. Now we go back to Neyland. We have a 4-game home game slate. A big gauntlet, really. Even though everyone thinks Florida is going to be, what we thought they were going to be last year. I think this is a game where Tennessee needs to be 10 toes down, ready to go. But I agree with you with the Sam Pittman thing. I think Tennessee could put a nail in Billy Napier's coffin right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that Tennessee gets two coaches fired two weeks in a row. Uh, I am predicting Tennessee to win this game. Yeah, like the game in 2022 against Florida at home, where we went up 17 with like 8 minutes left. I predict that, except we don't let them be thrown into the end zone to go ahead in on the last play of the game. I think Tennessee wins by 17 to 24 points.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think Tennessee will be full cylinders here. And they're definitely pissed off about last year. And again, I think what gets them past Florida this year is just being, that what, fifth game of the season, sixth game of the season. And being at home is a huge advantage too. So it's gonna be jam packed, gonna be exciting. I think Tennessee wins this game as well. I think Tennessee wins 35-24.
Yeah, I'd probably go 41 to 24.
I like that. I'm not against it. That'll make me happy.
I mean, and like you said, we were talking about it before we started tonight, but Graham Mertz is going to put up a little bit of points. But again, our defensive line will have him running for his life when we get up by a few scores and they're pinning their ears back to get after him. And I think he'll throw an interception or two in the second half. And I think that will be what separates Tennessee finally in that game on October 12th.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we go to the third Saturday in October. Alabama comes back to town. We know what happened 2 years ago when they came to town. We finally, snapped that streak and beat them. I think this is going to be a tough game for Alabama. A lot of these, I know they still have the talent, but I just feel like Kalen DeBoer is just not ready for these SEC environments back to back to back. So I want to get your opinion on this one.
Yeah, so the only hard road game that Alabama has before they come into Neyland for the third Saturday in October is on the road at Wisconsin. And that's even debatable if that's even hard or not. I mean, I know Camp Randall is pretty good, but it's also an 11 a.m. kick. We don't know the kick time for Alabama yet, but it'll be an afternoon or a night game, no doubt. So I think just based on that fact, I don't think Kellen DeBoer is used to a rabid SEC road environment. The only SEC road game he has before that is at Vanderbilt 2 weeks before. So, and we all know that is not a hostile SEC road environment. It will be an Alabama home game. So they're walking into that hornet's nest, and having lost Oklahoma, based on what I'm projecting, this is a must-win for Tennessee if they want to make the playoff, safely. And I think they'll be ready to play. I think it'll go similarly to how it did in 2022, except the defensive line plays a lot better. We have a better secondary back there, and they don't have Bryce Young. They have Jalen Milroe.
Which is ass. I'm sorry, but Jalen Milroe is not a good quarterback.
I agree. The only reason that people think he's good is because he put together one drive to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. Like, that's it.
All he could do is run. That's all he could do.
It took them like a month and a half to figure out how to use him last year. And Tennessee held him at home to 7 points with a far worse secondary last year. So I think Tennessee scores upper 30s, low 40s, and we hold Alabama to 31 points and get out of there with a 7 to 10 point win.
Yeah, and like I said, this could either be a 6-0 environment or a 5-1 environment. Either one, to me, is just going to be absolutely nuts. This will be a huge game to be at. I'll be there. I know you'll be there. So it's going to be really big for Tennessee. Either way you put it. I think even if you're 6-0 at this point, I think this is a must-win game. And that takes a whole lot of pressure off the football team if you do pull that off. But yeah, I agree. I think Tennessee wins this game. I think it's gonna be a little bit closer. I still think Tennessee scores like 42 to 45 points, but I think we win by a touchdown. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, not too far off. I said 7-10, but we both agree Tennessee pulls it out.
Yeah, I mean, if this is going the way we think it's going to go, this is a great start to a season. And again, that Alabama game could very well be a night game as well. We don't know because that is going to be a primetime game, in my opinion. So very well could be. It's going to be at least a 4 o'clock game, 3 o'clock game.
Yeah,
but very potentially could be a night game. But then we go to our little sister, the Kentucky Wildcats come to town. I've already been seeing all these Kentucky fans saying that they're winning 11 games, and it's just the wheel is circling around, and they get the confidence up to go win 10 to 11 games, 12 games, and they'll come back to reality. Again, I think Tennessee wins this game. I think Tennessee's going to put up a lot of points, and I don't think Kentucky's going to be able to keep up.
yeah, I'm on the same page, Jim. Your second bye week falls after Alabama. You'll have 2 weeks to prepare for Brock Vandagriff, a name that inspires fear into every SEC defense.
Terrifying.
Psych. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee always wins in Neyland, except when they have a redneck as their coach during a pandemic against Kentucky. So the last time they lost without those circumstances was in the 70s. So 50 years ago. And I see nothing short of a 30-point win.
Yeah, no, I would love to see that. Now I won't. I'm not going to put a score out there. I just think Tennessee's going to win this game handily. And Kentucky fans, you can be mad all you want, but again, I think this is just inevitable at this point.
Yeah, it's just the reality.
Yeah, now we get another home game against Mississippi State. Another game I think Tennessee will be a 2-touchdown favorite in my opinion.
At least.
Yeah, so again, I think Tennessee wins this game by 10 points. I don't really know a lot about Mississippi State. They have a new coach, I think, and it's going to be, again, if our predictions are right, you're looking at an 8-win, 9-win, whatever Tennessee team where the environment at all these home games late in the season are going to be insane. So, again, I think Tennessee wins this one by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. Now, I'll go ahead and say this. I'm not predicting Tennessee to lose this game. But when I look at how the schedule unfolds, you're coming off a big win at Kentucky against Kentucky. I mean, you're beating Alabama 3 weeks prior to that. But to me, this screams trap game the week before going down to Athens. And Jeff Lebby, who is their new head coach, runs a very similar system to Josh Heupel. Score a lot of points. I think this will be closer than people are thinking. I think Mississippi State covers whatever spread there is, and Tennessee escapes in a Big 12 type shootout. But they do get the win.
Okay. I like that take.
It's just a game that I think it's much like the South Carolina game in 2022, except it's at home, where a team that is capable, that if you're just, not ready, they could give you a game and even beat you. So I don't think that'll happen, but I do think it'll be close just based on those things that I said.
No, yeah, I like that take. I think, again, I think Tennessee will end up winning by 2 touchdowns, but I think the defensive line, man, is just going to really dominate a lot of these teams. I mean, other than Alabama and Georgia, to me, I think Tennessee's defensive line is going to be absolutely a train wreck for offensive lines.
Yeah. I mean, just backtracking to what they should do against Alabama, what they should do is keep Milroe in the pocket, and he will be not effective enough to beat us, which I think will happen. You don't even have to sack him. Just keep him contained and keep, the heat on him. But, yeah, I agree. The defensive line is going to keep us in a lot of games, or the games that, we might be predicted to lose. and will win us one of those games, whether it be Oklahoma, Alabama, or Georgia. They will win us one of those games, no doubt.
Yeah. And then you go to Georgia, you go to Athens to face probably the undefeated Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, I think they're going to be undefeated. But you never know. I mean, they got a pretty tough schedule too. But anyway, I think this is going to be, because at this point, Tennessee is probably going to be a top 5 team, if not top 3, depending on what happens. And this will be a primetime night game, in my opinion. And I think I'm not ready to say Tennessee can beat Georgia. Like, they can beat Georgia. I just don't think it's this year. I think they just have too many weapons. Their offensive line's really good. Their defense is always good. And Kirby Smart has had Josh's number. So you never know. Anything could happen. But I'm definitely saying we lose by 10 points to 2 touchdowns against Georgia on the road.
Yeah. You know, believe it or not, Georgia has one of the toughest schedules in the country this year. I know they, avoided that the last few years, but they got to play Clemson to right off the bat. They got to play Alabama at Alabama. They got to play Texas at Texas. They got to play Ole Miss at Ole Miss. But saying all that to say this is their biggest home game of the year. And just much like it was in 2022 when Tennessee was number 1 in the CFP first rankings and they were number 1 in the AP polls, it was 1 versus 1. And I think it goes similarly to that game. And again, it's on the road against a good opponent. And, my opinion might change, leading up to that game if they've showed us they can play on the road. If they beat Oklahoma on the road and they're still playing well on offense and all that leading up to this game, my opinion might change. But for now, I agree with you. Georgia will grind out a win and probably separate early in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think that fourth quarter gets us, especially with that home environment, probably a night game. Like I said, I think it's, going to be a game that Tennessee will lose. But again, if everything goes right, I mean, this should be your second loss. And you're still looking, because if you look at it, even if they lose to Oklahoma or Bama and Georgia, it's, those are 2 tough losses, like, to good football teams. So It's not going to hurt you in the playoff run, I think. And I think we could both talk about how UTEP and Vandy are both wins. And I think if you could get past that gauntlet of those initial, to me, the 5 most important, or actually I'll say 6 most important games on Tennessee's schedule is NC State, Oklahoma, Bama, Florida, Kentucky. And that's like your main games you have to win.
Yeah. I mean, that month of October at home, if you are not 4-0 in my scenario where you lose to Oklahoma, you're probably not making the playoffs. And it's the Georgia game, like you said, if you get through those first 10 games with 2 losses, I think you're in. Because you would either have lost to – let me backtrack a little bit. If you lose to Oklahoma, like I said, if you lose to Alabama at home and you lose to Georgia on the road, you're 3 losses, so you're probably not in. But if you were to beat Oklahoma, if you were to beat Alabama, if you were to split those, and you get into Georgia with only 1 loss, all bets are off. I mean, Tennessee would probably be less than I think right now it's a damn 16.5 point spread down there, which I think is ridiculous. But Tennessee,
For what?
Yeah.
For who?
At Georgia.
We're 16.5 point underdogs?
That's what I'm seeing.
I don't think that.
I think that's insane.
I would take the points.
Yeah.
I just don't. Because a lot of people are looking at the offense from last year. I think the tempo is going to be a lot faster. I think the wide receiver room is more, capable. I think we have a better quarterback. We still have a good running back, good tight ends. I just don't see. I think Georgia's going to win. Don't get me wrong, but 17 points is a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's insane. But getting into there with one loss, no matter what happens in that game, I think you're in the playoff. Easy enough.
No, I agree. I think if Tennessee loses 3, you're not getting in.
Yeah, there's just too many good teams in the SEC this year. I think it'd be tough, but especially if you lose at Oklahoma and at Georgia, that's 2 road losses against probably ranked teams in hostile environments, which you can't really dock a team too much for that, depending on how the games go. So we'll just have to see when it comes, man. But again, you get there with 1 loss, I think Tennessee looks pretty good for the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not out of the picture of them beating a Georgia team. It's just because we could be completely wrong, and they could be lights out. They could be the best defensive line. Their linebackers are good. They're above average secondary. It's gonna be hard to beat a Tennessee team if they could just get the tempo going and score some points. I think if you have a better defense in 2022, Tennessee would have been unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, even last year, when your points per game dropped by, I think it was 10 to 13 points, you're like, if the offense was better, because the defense did get better last year, even with that crack brain secondary. And
other than Kamal Hadden.
Yeah. Kamal and Gabe Judy-Lally were the bright spots, and then the safeties and all that. We all know how it went. No need to rehash that sore point from last year, but we're just saying that to say the secondary will be better. And I agree, if the defense is even the same as last year, with Nico back, hopefully getting the offense back on track, it's just the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Now, I do have an interesting question on obviously Nico is, but who is going to get the loudest ovation for their little scoreboard thing before the game? I have my opinion.
There's
only one true answer other than Nico.
Okay, so we're eliminating Nico.
Yeah. Nico's going to be, other than Nico. I already know there's one, and if you don't say it, I'm going to be offended.
I mean, you got brother James Pierce.
Wrong.
What?
Wrong.
You don't think Pierce will get a huge ovation?
Yeah, he will. He will. Absolutely will. But there's one person that's going to get a bigger ovation.
Tell me.
You can't guess it? Boo!
Yeah.
He is going to get a massive, massive ovation the first go-around this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's a lot of receivers would not have come back.
Especially from he's so talented, and I know you've seen it, but all these videos of him this year, that boy looks quick, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a world where Brew is not or catches the most balls on the team. I just don't see it because number one, he doesn't get tackled. He either gets pushed out of bounds or he runs out of bounds on his own. Number two, like you said, he looks faster. He is bigger. And, a lot of times when you're coming off an injury like that, you come back stronger just on that leg. So I could definitely see a scenario where he is a 1,000-yard plus receiver.
I don't think it's going that far, but I think he gets, because he had, what was it, 2 years ago he had 6 something.
Yeah,
and that was with Jalen Hyatt, obviously, but I still think you're right. I think he gets close. I think he gets in the 700 to 800s. But between this group, man, you got Dante Thornton, Chris Brazzell, Squirrel White, Mike Matthews, the tight ends. I mean, I think it's gonna be hard. I don't think if there is a 1,000-yard guy, it'd be Squirrel White in my opinion, just because of the deep ball.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I think the number one guys would be Brazel. I think Brazel is going to have a phenomenal year.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, this is a good thing to talk about. Who's going to be our leading receiver? Because you have three really truly possible candidates
For number ones, yeah.
for whoever leads the team in receiving yards and catches and all that. I think for Squirrel, I agree with you because of the deep ball. I think he'll have the most touchdowns, but I think Brewer will end up having the most yards just because he's that possession guy, the guy on third downs that you're probably looking for over the middle of the field. And but Brazel too. I mean, the clips we've seen of Brazel in camp have been insane. I know that one clip would probably have been called offensive pass interference. I mean,
but still, just the athleticism is crazy.
The athleticism showed off in that clip where he just jumps on a guy to get it from him. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I could see a scenario where they all have 800 yards.
That'd be tough. That means Nico's got like 4,000 yards passing.
I mean, everything that I hear coming out of the program from inside sources says that they think they have their Trevor Lawrence. Just saying.
Well, and I know it was just one bowl game. It's just, and I was at the Nissan Stadium game against Virginia when he got to play.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing it in person, I had really good seats. Watching it midfield, just Nico has that presence in the pocket. Like he has that sixth sense. And again, I think that's what's going to be, huge for Tennessee and huge for Nico. He's got so many weapons, and I mean, it's never a bad thing to have so many weapons.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think 4,000 is a crazy thing to speculate. And, I mean, yeah, that's all I got to say on Nico. I wanted to ask you, Jim, you are familiar with the term pick to click, correct?
No.
Okay. So, a guy that has not proven himself yet, but will prove himself this year. Give me one on offense and one on defense.
So has not proved themselves yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna start on defense.
Okay.
There's two. Can I say two?
1A and 1B. I'm fine with it.
Okay. So one is Keenan Peely. Hey, he could be the 1B because he was injured last year. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be an excellent addition. That would have been huge last year. But 1A, Joshua Joseph. I think he's going to have a really, really good year, especially with people paying attention to James Pierce a lot more. Because when you have to double James Pierce, you're going to have to, you're going to go one-on-one for Joshua Josephs and, Tyree Weathersby and, these guys, they need to take advantage of this, one-on-one and get to the quarterback. So what about you? Who's your defensive guy?
I guess you could argue he proved himself last year, but he did get injured close to the end of the year. Arian Carter looks like he has a mortgage. He looks like he's in the NFL already. I think Arian Carter will probably lead the team in tackles, and I think Peely will be a close second.
Yeah, from what I've heard is that Arian Carter is man amongst men, whatever the phrase is. I think he's going to be an absolute killer for this defense to have back after he got hurt last year. So, now let's go to the offensive side. The offensive side is a little bit more tough because, like, Squirrel White's proven, Brew McCoy's proven.
Yep.
Chris Brazel is proven pretty much. I mean, last year he was freshman All-American, so we know he's got the tangibles to get stuff done.
Yep.
Again, I think I'm going to do a 1A, 1B. 1B to me is Dante Thornton. I think you need a guy like Dante Thornton to have that, step up year. Because if you could have the Dante Thornton we all thought we were getting last year with the three guys we just named, and Mike Matthews and Chaz Nimrod. Again, this wide receiver room is very, very deep. Now, my number one guy is Chaz Nimrod. I think Chaz Nimrod is going to be a problem, especially when you're covering Squirrel White, Brew McCoy, Chris Brazzell. I think Chaz Nimrod's going to get a lot of targets, and I heard a lot of good things come out of camp too.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is a perfect, thing that you pick two for each side of the ball. There's so much talent everywhere now, but for the offense, I'm thinking unlocking the middle of the field again. When you can have a reliable guy to throw it over the middle of the field in Nico that you didn't have last year in Joe Milton. I think whoever starts at tight end will be my pick to click, whether it be Kitzelman, Stays, or Davis, whoever gets the bulk of those snaps. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Ethan Davis for route running will be my pick to click, and he will catch a lot of balls over the middle of that field, and it will lead to big things for this offense.
I agree. I think Ethan Davis should get a lot of snaps. I think the other two will play more snaps, but I think Ethan Davis might get a couple like wide receiver roles here and there because the dude's an excellent route runner. He can catch the ball, very athletic. And like you said, you could count on him to catch balls in the middle of the field. And I think Tennessee has so much talent this year to where there's so many names you could say. We talk about the defensive line, but you could talk about the wide receivers. You could talk about the tight ends. And even a guy that freshman, I think we're going to see a lot of Peyton Lewis.
Yeah.
Did you know Peyton Lewis was the fastest rated in NCAA in the on Tennessee? And it's 97 speed. I think he's going to be playing a lot. Or he's going to get his opportunities.
Well, he'll certainly get snaps against Chattanooga because for now, just based on everything coming out of Knoxville right now during camp, it sounds like he's a little bit ahead of Selden at this point. So
yeah, Selden coming off an injury, I think give him that week off, because Selden's a great running back as well. Not taking anything from him. It's just him coming off that, injury. I think Peyton Lewis might get an opportunity. But Peyton Lewis, dude, he's huge. He's fast. I think he's going to be a guy. Tennessee's going to be very pleased of getting this guy. I think he is going to be. I'm going to say it now. On August 18th, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Peyton Lewis is going to be a Vol legend. Now,
are you going to go?
I'm not talking statue or anything, but I think he is going to be a guy like Hyatt, where you remember him because, dude, he's got the tangibles, he's got the speed, he's got the attitude, and he's got the right offense. And I think he's going to have some killer seasons.
Yeah, I mean, not to be blasphemous, but would you consider him matching what another Lewis and Jamal Lewis did at Tennessee?
He looks just like him. Hold on. I'm doing a comparison right now.
While you're doing that, I just want to talk about the tight ends.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the talent in there. You got three good guys. We talked about last week. Whoever starts there will be talented, and then the two behind them will be, capable as well. Could you see Tennessee running two tight end sets a lot more frequently just because of the talent in that room?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, here's my thing. If you have a guy like Ethan Davis and you have Holden Stays or Kitzelman, you could run a where you have one of the tight ends blocking and one of the tight ends going out for, some passes. Now, I've heard great things, though. I've heard Kitzelman is a great with the hands, too.
Yeah.
But blocking wise, and I'm not taking anything from Ethan Davis. I mean, he's a tight end for a reason. He can obviously block, but I think Holden Stays and Kitzelman will be the primary blockers.
Yeah.
And you know how Tennessee is. If it's the offense we know and love, they don't sub a lot. So I think Kitzelman and Stays will be blocking for these running backs early on, but Ethan Davis will be playing and be catching some footballs.
Absolutely agree. So now that you've seen one Jamal Lewis, what do you think?
Okay, so comparison. Everyone's going to be real excited about this. So Jamal Lewis is actually 5'11", 245 pounds. Okay?
Big as hell.
Big as hell. Payne Lewis is 6'1", 215 pounds. So
he'll put on some weight.
Well, right now he's listed at 210, but I'm putting an extra 5 pounds on there because they don't really update the site every often. But yeah, I think Peyton Lewis is going to be a stud, an absolute stud. Same thing as Ethan Davis. I think Ethan Davis is going to be insane. He's 6'5", 250. I mean, dude. The thing is, Tennessee and Nico have so many threats this year. It's just, can you protect Nico? That left guard spot, not as big as a loss. I mean, you got Hurd on the left, you got Campbell on the right, you got Mays in the middle, and you got Spraggins right next to, Mays on the right. It's just, can you figure out that left guard spot, and can everyone stay healthy? And I think if the answer is yes to the healthy question, watch out for Tennessee.
I completely agree. You got anything else tonight, my good
Nope,
friend?
We are so dang close. We are, 5 days from now, we'll be watching college football.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That
and, inject it. I don't care what kind of whack matchup it is. I'll be watching it.
Yeah, I think everyone will. Everyone will be betting on it. I mean, it's just that time of year where the degenerates come out.
Exactly.
But anyways, that's it. Let's go Vols. Let's go 12-0. Go to a natty, and let Nico win the Heisman.
Hell yeah. Next week, for everybody listening, we'll have Eli on with us for our Chattanooga preview. But I guess that's it for tonight. Go Vols.
Go Vols, baby.